I was going to talk about dating Bantan Soyendan, but now I'm afraid we need to talk about t.o.p because that's really important. That's much more important at this point. Come back. Let's talk about it. Hey YouTube. As usual, who I am, not as important as what I have to say. And tonight, it is important. Usually I say it's subjective, but tonight I'm going to tell you that I have some knowledge on this one. Now, we all have heard the recent news about t.o.p being arrested and discharged, I believe discharged from his service because of smoking marijuana. Now, I want you to look at this from many different angles, and I want you to hear me out. First of all, the first thing I want to say is my heart goes out to t.o.p, his family, the Big Bang members, all the VIPs, and anybody who loves Big Bang. My granddaughter is a huge Big Bang fan, and although she's too young to understand, I would never want to have to tell her, as we're watching videos someday when she's older, that this man is no longer alive, and this is why. So now he's attempted suicide, which, again, a big issue, right? This has many sides. Do not be fooled by the one side or the other in any of this argument, because it is much more complex than some want to make it. Stick with me. I will not make this a half-an-hour video. This is my background. I worked as an EMT on a paramedic ambulance for 25 years. I saw overdoses, carnage, gunshot wounds, earthquakes, hurricanes. I was in Hurricane Katrina and was there for a month. I know about this stuff. I know about drunk driving accidents. I know about suicides. As a matter of fact, in the 25 years that I worked in emergency medical services, I lost 20 coworkers to suicide. One just very recently. It just keeps happening. I want to tell you that there is no glory in giving up. There is always darkest before the dawn. I have only one exception for myself, and that is if I'm terminally ill and I feel that I don't want to suffer anymore. But I would have to be terminally ill, and I would have to be riddled with cancer or whatever, and that there would be no hope. I would try everything first. That's me. Know that if you are in emotional pain and you choose to take your own life, you are giving that pain not only to the entire world or anybody who hears about it, but as suicide becomes more prevalent in our cultures, certainly Japan and Korea have a little larger than average issue. It's because they work so hard. I mean, they take life so seriously, and I'm not justifying it, but there are reasons. There are always reasons why. Virtually, almost always. Before t.o.p went into the military, I saw Big Bang on an interview. I want to say Radio Star, but I'm probably wrong about the name. But they spoke about how he'd been crying for the last 3 months. He looked terribly thin, really thin. And I want to ask you, we know he drinks. He self-admits on that show how much he drinks, not just because he was going to the military. It is part of his regular life. He drinks a lot. Certainly alcohol does way more damage than marijuana will ever do. Real quick, I don't smoke. I don't do any drugs. Okay? It's not for me. I do, every once in a while, use a little bit of the CBD, which is for muscle pain and stuff like that, but it doesn't get you high. And I get it legally. I live in California. It is legal. I have a doctor's prescription, but I don't smoke marijuana. I don't get high or any of that stuff. Not that I have a problem with medicinal use of marijuana at all. I have no problem with it when used responsibly and under a doctor's care, right? I have no problem with it. There is one other issue though, and Holly Back, I adore this couple, and he unfortunately is working from emotion right now, and I get it. because I remember those times when I lost coworkers or when I lost patients, because you cannot save everybody. And there is no worse feeling, and there is no more out of control feeling. And we by nature want to find blame, right? We want to find blame. This young man drinks for a reason, right? Life is overwhelming to him. That much fame, that much responsibility. He spoke on this last interview, and I'll try and link it. I'm going to try and find it, but I'm sure you can find it if I don't. He talked about his lifestyle, right? We know he used to be terribly overweight. He lost a lot of weight he was turned away from YG originally because he was so overweight. Went and lost all kinds of weight. Well, we know that there are a few reasons. I used to be very, very overweight. I lost, well, it's pounds, 170 pounds, like 16 years ago. And what is that? Divide that by 2.2 kilograms, or 2.2 pounds per kilogram. Yeah, I think that's it. In any event, I lost a lot of weight. We use food the same way people use alcohol or drugs. While medical marijuana is essential to have in our society, essential, to willy-nilly legalize it for all to use recreationally, I think needs more examination. And let me tell you why. Our society is getting more and more codependent, right? As we see suicides go up, not just in Japan and Korea, but it's happening in other places in the world. This is a problem. This is an unstable mind, right? This is a mind that is overwhelmed. This is a mind that is no longer able to keep its own balance and perspective. That is not the person's fault, right? Life is overwhelming. We are doing things that go against our nature. The way we live, the things we eat, the ideas that we feel are still relevant. Okay? I have only lived in Korea for the last 8 months, and I'm there part-time. So I'm there for like a month, I'm home a month, I'm there a month, I'm home a month. So I don't know as much as Holly Euback knows. I really don't. I do adore the Korean government and the Korean culture. I am very hopeful that President Moon is going to follow through with the things he talks about and promises that he makes. I really do. And I think to judge the entire government when there is a new president in, before he's able to make any kind of real change, or to even just follow through on his promises, like I said, he's working from emotion. Give him a pass. But what I'm asking you to do is to take a look at this argument from many angles before you make a decision. I'm not telling you that my way is right. I'm not telling you that his way is right. I want to give you some more options. This is what I do. Okay, I want us all to be critical and creative thinkers, right? We need to ask why. When we ask why, we then verify, right? It's not because we think we know better. It's because the more we know, the better we are. As a society and as an individual, this is super important. So know that I am not disagreeing with him. But I think that South Korea sees enough of America's shenanigans to say that you should blindly follow America right now because because Nixon didn't, want it on the books and decided to make it illegal. And because it took this long, doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I know plenty of people that while they may not be physically addicted to it, they're chowderheads. They don't need it for medicinal reasons, but they use it to escape, right? I know people who say, oh, I don't drink alcohol, I don't do any drugs, but they are smoking 24/7. Now, I don't care what you do with your life. It's your life. But please don't judge an entire society based on your compensating choices, right? We ought to be stronger. It is my opinion that we must build ourselves up stronger, because when we are stronger, we are less of a burden to society. We are more available, readily available to help each other. It is just the law of the land, right? Humanity's role model. We show each other how to be and how not to be. I'm not so sure that we want to show everybody that if you can't handle life, if you cannot deal with what's going on, that you need to medicate. I don't know that that's the right answer. And I'm still in support of medicinal marijuana. Still. But medicinal marijuana, yes, it is absolutely essential and effective in use in stress and anxiety. But you don't use it in replacement. You don't keep walking through the landmine and just smoke a joint. You take another path and smoke less of the joint, right? It's silly for us to stay. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We can no longer do this. We have far too much history that says, here's what happens when you do this. We know these things, right? We know these things. So why not de-stress our lives a little better, right? Why didn't we, and I'm going to be a little pompous right now, it alarmed me when I heard the other Big Bang members saying that he had been crying for 3 months prior to going in. When he looked so thin, he was openly talking about drinking so much. I know the drinking culture in Korea. I figure, well, you know what? If they felt this man needed help, somebody in his circle would help him, right? So, and I don't feel like I need to criticize South Korea yet. First of all, I don't know the society enough, right? And I feel like I have a lot to learn before I can open up my mouth and criticize, right? I could, right? I have the right, especially in my own country, to say whatever I want. But should I? I mean, to run my mouth, especially in a time when social media and so many people can hear my voice, and even after I may reconsider my position, if I don't take down that opinion, that thought goes out forever and ever as long as that video stays up. So I'm reserving a lot of my opinions about a new established government in South Korea, first, until we see some activity. Second, until I learn a little more about Korean politics, culture, and laws, and society. I mean, I think that's fair for anybody. I'm not saying that Hallyu-back's not right. I may find out that he is right. But when you see somebody like Hitman Bang be nurturing, and he made his mistakes in the beginning. He's admitted to those and atoned for those with BTS. It's not for us to. He doesn't need to apologize to us. That was their dynamic. The stress of having to perform, of possibly performing more than you should have for less, not getting this, not getting that, having to put off dating longer than is natural. Right? He talks about how he thinks he's mentally ill. t.o.p talks about how he thinks he's mentally ill. He doesn't form proper connections with romantic partners. I mean, listen to that interview. It is quite telling. He tells you all the things. But the thing is, he says it in such a way that tells me that he is very self-aware. And then that tells me that he's working within a social construct or living in a narrative that is no longer relevant for him, right? And I get that. And that is no slight to South Korea. That means he's outgrown it. There's an old, I think it's an old song from a movie that kind of it was about, I think, World War II. How are you going to keep them down on the farm now that they've seen Perry? You know, when the kids from the deep south in our country hit the big city, they ain't going back. It's a big city, and I'm not going back to that little podunk town. Once you've been a regular citizen of Korea, and then you become an idol, and I think I think the last amount I heard was 45 million that Big Bang made last year, the year before, more than Maroon 5. How do you take a man that's been a part of that and make him go into the military? By the way, I support the military, the mandatory military. I wish my country did it. That wouldn't be America, land of the free, but, you know, that's a whole other story. It's clear that some people are not meant for military service at a certain point. To me, it is very clear that it was a wrong decision for him to go into the military, for them to take him into the military. It appears that they did everything to try and give him an assignment that might suit him better. But look at what's happening with K-pop right now. Look at the explosion. It's hitting the world. I gotta tell you, in all honesty, if I were South Korea, I'd give Big Bang an exception. I'd give anything that represents South Korea in such a way an exception, if they want it. Now, there's people like Taekyon from 2PM. He gave up his American citizenship so he could serve in the Korean military. Good on ya. I mean, it gives me chills even thinking about it. I don't know that he still feels like it was a good idea, but it's a different world, people. We have to make adjustments, right? Rules are rules. The word exception has a meaning and a reason, because there are exceptions. And there are times when I think that we ought to reconsider. If people feel that that's unfair, certainly, hopefully that there are channels in place where they can voice their opinion. I don't know the full extent of that in South Korea. I'm assuming that since they got to protest the president, because I got caught in the middle of the protest, or one of them, that they would have the right to say, no, we really feel like he needs to do some type of service, even if it's a modified service, even if it's more modified than him working down in, you know, Gangnam in the police department, public relations, I think it is. So I feel for this situation. It is absolutely acceptable to be in the middle, right? It's absolutely acceptable to see that a country needs a military, especially in this time, especially where they're situated, especially with the leaders that are being irresponsible and using certain people as a pawn. I find it horrifying that my country does not see the effect that it has on South Korea's economy right now. I find it horrible that they can, and I want to say this properly because I don't ever advocate the harm of anybody, but it amazes me that Saddam Hussein and others can be dispatched, yet other people can be used as pawns. And as Rap Monster talks about when he introduces those of us that weren't familiar with the story of walking away from Mamalas, how much do we benefit from that little pawn game that they play? And North Korean citizens, they suffer. I'm not willing to accept that. I can't do anything about it. I'm not advocating violence or war. I'm just saying we ought to look at it for what it is. If they can do it one place and they don't do it another, I'd like to have an explanation as to why. I'm not suggesting that this man be injured, regardless of what I think about him. There is so much more than black and white, yes and no, good and bad. There are 50 shades of every motherfucking situation. I want Korea to be represented properly. I don't want them blindly following the United States. That would be a mistake. We are in a change right now. Hopefully we can come out of it. But our arrogance is like the emperor's new clothes. I, for one, I have hope. I have hope because I have children and grandchildren that will continue to live in the United States as far as I know. I want to leave something good. I want to start the ball rolling. I want to be a part of a positive, global, just unity. You can have your culture, you can have your beliefs. I'm not suggesting that we wipe any of those out. I'm suggesting that we get on track and say, we all know what the other's talking about. We all know what's going on now. We have access to so much more. We have the ability to ease unnecessary suffering and stop those who want to dominate and control from gaining power and damaging the lives of others. This is far too important, far too important. I don't want to go over my time. I think I've said enough. If you want to know more, please put it in the comments below. If you want to discuss this more, please hit that subscribe button. I know I had said that I don't care about subscribers and I don't really, care about likes or any of that stuff. But I'm feeling passionate, and I want to talk about things that really matter. And I think that BTS and Big Hit Entertainment are going down the right road for not just South Korea, but for humanity. And you know how I feel about humanity, right? Humanity is humanity's role model. We show each other what to do every single day. Some right, some wrong. You need to do something good for yourself every day to make sure that you can do something good for somebody else if they need it. If you can't do something good for somebody else, just be the best that you can be so you're not a burden on society. You can start by doing the right thing the right way every time, no matter who's watching. Don't forget I love you. And if you forget, come on back. I'll remind you. Now go live your life. And remember, ask why, verify. It's our responsibility. We just need to make sure that we got it all right. I love you all. Go live your life.